Hi there. My name is John Fairhurst, and I've been reading science fiction for over 40 years now. And that's mostly science fiction, that is. I also have I also read fantasy and crime novels, and there and there are books in there that will overlap in all three genres, sometimes all together. Um, I write reviews. I have written reviews for Amazon and the website's librarything.com. A link to that one below. With videos on this channel, I am hoping to put up reviews, continue the widening my range of media where I put review, where I share my reviews with people. Um, all this is part of my efforts to reread all the 1600 books that I own. So we'll see how that. I've already started that, so continuing on with this, adding a video face to the review. Now, as there are individual book reviews, the actual videos will be fairly short, but hopefully long enough to give you an idea of what the book's all about. Again, they won't be the reviews won't be published on a fixed schedule, as I obviously need to read the book, write and do the videos and all necessary editing for that. Hopefully, there won't be any intentional spoilers, but given that this is a review of a book, there is obviously going to have to be discussion of said book and what's going on in the book, so take care. Right, first off, I think we'll just give a quick overview of what I think of constitutes mainly the constituents of science fiction are. There's what used to be called hard science fiction, which is where the book deals with science as basically as we know it now. So you'll find things like fusion reactors or possibly an extrapolate. So you'll have an extrapolation of current science principles. If we take this to the hardest of hardcores, this will generally mean that we won't get faster than light travel, as this is by current scientific principles. It's considered that this is very unlikely to ever be considered fruition, unfortunately. However, even in so-called hard science fiction books, faster than light travel is one of those things that gets accepted just on a sheer scale of getting people around. Otherwise, you tend to be limiting yourself to just a single solar system. Not that there's anything particularly wrong with that. Or you can have slower than light travel, which can bring up problems of its own, which have also made their way into science by authors that are you might consider to be more generic science fiction type writers. Anyway, deal with those as we come across them, maybe. After hard science fiction, there was what we might call space opera. Similar, make them sound a bit more like westerns and things like that. They will include more accepted science fiction elements such as faster than light travel and ray guns and all sorts of novel technologies in them. But though again, the better types of these will tend to try to have a scientific consistency within that background. They won't just hopefully not invent something and then totally out of left field or whatever. You want, just total random set of things. Under this heading, you'll probably find the largest number of books, basically because this is far easier to write for. You'll tend to find under this sort of heading things like military science fiction as well, which tend to have fighting wars, military manoeuvres taking place over many, many solar systems and massive parts of the galaxy. Right. Although sometimes you will get military science fiction that's based within a solar system, although not particularly necessarily the main elements of the series. The Expanses has elements of military science fiction within it, as a fairly recent example. Another subgenre that gets lobbed in with science fiction quite often is alternate history, where the author posits a change within the regular history that's already occurred, to make a point about it, making a story to point. That can be as extreme as going back to the formation of the solar system and altering the formation of the planets, so that you get planets coming into areas of the solar system where they don't currently exist, or as what usually happens is alternate winners of the World War II or the American Civil War, these two being the main topics covered by authors, as most authors of science fiction seem to be Americans of some form or another. Fantasy, you tend to get two sets of books. The high epic type story, which is basically characterized by Lord of the Rings from J.R.R. Tolkien, and those books are either written in homage to him, shall we say, following in that sort of his basic footsteps, or those books that are sort of written against the genre type, that particular genre type. Secondary world fantasy in general, where you'll have maybe not quite such an epic scale, but have similar sorts of elements to it with elves and magical beasties and magic and all that sort of rubbish. Also, a fairly recent innovation has been introduction of urban fantasy, excuse me, where introduction of fantasy tropes within the introduction of fantasy tropes within the current modern day settings is a thing. Can be done well, can be done pretty awfully, like everything else. Anyway, within each review, I would place it within one of these fantasy tropes, one of these genres as I see it. I'm sure there will be disagreements, and things like that. So there's always a comment section below. Right, if you feel like you want to continue on listening to my reviews, click subscribe and hit the notifications bell so that you know when they are coming out. Thank you very much. Goodbye for now.